This program is sponsored by Cynthia McIntosh.
My name is Cynthia McIntosh, and I welcome you to Nuggets of Truth broadcast. On today, I want to share a word of the Lord to you from Matthew chapter 17, verse 14 through 21. I want to read that for you today to hopefully encourage you to receive the word of the Lord from this text that he has for us today. It says, "And when they had come to the multitude, a man came to him, Jesus, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers severely. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon. And it came out of him, and the child was cured that very hour. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and says, Why could we not cast it out? So Jesus said to them, Because of your unbelief, for assuredly I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting." Let me read that last statement again. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. Dear hearts, you see in this text a father who could not solve his child's problem. This man is forced by God to seek a greater power than him. Sounds the same as what's happening today, where many sons cannot be helped by their father and they need a supernatural source. And this will be, I believe, to the end of time. For fathers are not born and mothers are not born with all answers to their children's. And so today, if you are a parent, know this, that God has a plan to help you to raise your child to maturity and to prevent them from having what I call a premature death due to illness. Oh, yes. God wanted this child to live, and I really do believe God let this man find Jesus. Yeah, first he went to the disciples of Jesus, but they could not heal him. And then he decided, I'm going to go to their leader. And Jesus did two things in this situation that led to the deliverance of the child. First, he identified the source. He immediately saw that it had a demonic connection. He did not see the problem in the form of a substance or circumstance that caused the child to be in the state that it was in, and if it had been, he would have spoken it. But he saw the source and told the source what to do. He commanded the demon to let the child go. And that child was delivered that very hour. Now in this text, while in this situation, Jesus turned it into a classroom for his disciples. Yes. Jesus called his disciples two things later on as they began to talk about this situation. He said that they were faithless and perverse. Yes. He said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Yes, he called them faithless and perverse. What does it mean to be faithless? It meant that they did not believe the child could be freed from this condition. They didn't think that this child's condition could be changed. They just didn't believe it. And then on top of all of that, they were perverse. What does it mean? perversion. Willful, determined, or disposed to go counter to what is expected or desired. Yeah, let me say that again. To be perverse means to be willful or determined or disposed to go counter to what is expected or desired. In other words, the disciples thought it was abnormal and unnatural for the child to be healed. They felt that the father's request was not acceptable. I can imagine that when that dad brought that child to them, they said, "How dare he ask for something that was never known to change? This is not normal." Jesus knew that these mindsets in his disciples could only be changed with his influence in their lives. Dear hearts, he wanted them to learn that some battles, oh yes, some battles must be won in order for God's people to please him on this earth. He let them know that they were living under thoughts of perversion, thoughts not normal to God's thoughts. Christ gave them the answer to their lack of faith and hope for change in the lives of people. That answer was prayer and fasting. Oh yes, let me read that last statement in this text. He said, "This kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting." Christ told the disciples that this situation had to be addressed through their time spent in prayer fasting. Prayer and fasting would guide them out of doubt and the absence. Oh yeah, there was an absence of a desire to see God's people freed from the powers of Satan. Prayer and fasting would give them the desire to help people break what I call the glass ceiling of life outside of bondage. He wanted them to know that God has no limitations for deliverance for his people. Prayer and fasting is God's plan for lifting them out of the flesh and into the spiritual things of the Lord. Prayer and fasting, dear hearts, and this leads me to my theme today. It's God's destroyer of doubt and perversion in our lives. Yeah, Jesus got real deep in this situation to let his disciples know that they were perverted in their thinking. It was not natural for them not to want that child to be healed. And so I share with you today that prayer and fasting is your gift from God to destroy your doubt and perversion in your life. Let me say that again. Prayer and fasting is God's destroyer of your doubt and perversion in your life. I want to challenge you with some more thoughts from this text under that theme. Your personal faith has the potential of speaking to every mountain in your life and telling it to move. You have mountain moving faith. Dear hearts, as a disciple of Christ, we know that prayer only facilitates the will of God and cannot change God's decision on any matter. However, we have been given the powerful weapon against satanic attacks that hinders God's will in our lives. Without it, we will not survive the vicious plan of Satan to end our lives prematurely. Your personal faith is the key to your survival in this world. It must become strong enough to overtake demonic forces that want your life ended. Dear hearts, you are a threat to Satan's influence on this earth. Know this, that God is going to present things to you that you will not initially accept as possible in your life. I am a witness as I speak to you today. Never did I want to, in my fleshly life, be a radio minister and a minister on television. I told the Lord I was in engineering school and that is all I plan to do. I'm going to get married and raise a family. Fortunately, yes, God overlooked my mindset and worked on my faith and His will for my life. His will for my life. Their hearts over time with prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting. I was able to exceed the limitations of my flesh and my heart. Yes, my prayer and fasting destroyed my doubt and perverted thinking concerning God's plan for my life. The heart's prayer and fasting is your faith builder. Yes, your faith builder is prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting will build up your faith for power. Yes, power to overcome the absence of faith to walk in God's perfected will for your life. Power to overcome satanic strongholds in your life. Spending time with God in prayer will change you and your ability to move mountains in your life. And I encourage you to set up an altar in your home. Make a spot in your home solely for time with God. Give God time to talk. Give God time to talk to you about you. You see, God is not afraid to give you something bigger than you. Let me say that again. God is not afraid to give you something bigger than you. Things that are currently, yes, only currently, out of your reach. God knows that if you can stand Him long enough in prayer, that you will become like Him in thought for your life. Listen to this text to go deeper into that thought. 2 Corinthians 3:17 and 18, it says, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord, there is liberty." But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just as by the Spirit of the Lord. The heart's fasting will change you in your ability to move mountains in your life. You spend time with God. Fasting will cause movement of things out of your life that will stop you from getting what God wants you to have. I want to end here with this thought. Prayer and fasting will revolutionize your life and change you into something that you never planned to be. It will be for your good. It will change you and your goals to eternity. Well, beloveds, I've got to go. God bless you. And I hope to share again with you next week.
This program was sponsored by Cynthia McIntosh. Be sure to check out the podcast for this program on FamilyValuesRadio1010.com. To find it, just go to the website and click on the podcast link at the top of the page.